Hi.
How's it going?
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, man.
Farouk, you really outdid yourself this time.
Thank you very much.
So you've been building cars for the Ineos booth for a couple years now.
This is the third one.
This is the third one.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Thank you.
This is awesome. So I did have a chance to shoot an E-Type drift car before with 1J, Charlie. Yeah, or was that a 1.5J?
It was a 1J, I think, and then now it's a 2J.
Okay, all right. So yeah, that was super cool. But this is, I guess I wouldn't say it's a different level, but it's just like your style.
Thank you.
So what was your thought behind this?
So this whole theme with Ineos is to find like cars that have racing heritage that aren't Japanese, and then mix them with Japanese power plants that are kind of epic, right? And so we did the E30 with the F20, we did the Porsche GT3 with the EJ25, and then now this British racing heritage, this being the 75th anniversary of Jaguar. There's a lot of history there, and it's something that I didn't really know about before this year. And then 2Js are my thing, so I wanted something that we could put a 2J in, and so this was kind of the perfect fit. And I think E-Types are gorgeous. So that's how this kind of came about.
Refresh my memory. I don't actually know what comes in these stock.
Yeah, so it is an inline 6.
Okay.
Yeah, so they have 3 series, or actually 4 technically, but series 1 and 2 had inline 6s. One was a 3.8 and then a 4.2. This came with a 4.2, and then later on they had V12s.
So in the body itself, is this a 2+2?
This is. So, good eye. This was, in 69, they had strange headlights because in 65, DOT required them to move the headlights forward because you couldn't see anything. But the headlights are kind of ugly, so I backdated the headlights.
Oh, okay.
Now they're, the old lightweights and the motorsports cars had these plastic perspex around the headlights. Mm-hmm. The road cars had glass, and we kind of sunk them in there and essentially backdated the front end. We also backdated the tail lights because personally, they just look better. So
what did you start with? Was it a running, driving car?
No, it's funny. So these cars are a little bit hard to source in a decent condition.
Yeah.
And through some random Facebook comment and this kind of, I chased somebody down, and I found it in Florida. So it was in somebody's garage in Florida, hadn't been registered since 1985. And funny enough, Chelsea DeNova actually picked it up for me.
Really?
Towed it to Long Beach. I picked it up at FT Long Beach in the garage, and it was pretty funny. So.
Huh. So it was just a rolling chassis?
Rolling chassis.
Did it still, did it have all the body panels and glass and everything?
It did. They weren't installed. And so it was all kind of stuffed into the car. And it was all kind of in pieces. Engine and training were actually in Detroit, and I had to pick those up after we went to St. Louis.
So it is just, what is it out of? Just like a Mark IV engine transmission?
So the head is a brand new head from Toyota. So they sell those at Toyota still. So it's a USDM Mark IV head, and then it's a IS300 block with CP pistons and Carrillo rods. Yeah, and then
that's like the budget way to do the.
That's like the perfect way to do it, personally. So everyone, I talk about this a lot, but it's like, everyone's like, JZs are so expensive, and when you think about it this way, the head's $1,500 from the dealer. The block is your labor to get it from a junkyard, essentially. CP pistons and rods, a few grand right there, and the labor to put it all together. It's for that same money of $6-7 grand, you get a built motor, which is kind of cool. Then we put the updated Borg Warner on it, so it's an 84/74. It has that light wheel, so it'll give us this response we want on street driving it, because since it's pre-74, we can actually register in California.
Oh yeah, that's right. So what year is this actually?
This is a 69.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then,
what a neat intercooler setup there.
Yeah, so with the design of the hood and the opening in the middle, there's not that much room. So what we did was we got a Sprint car triple pass radiator for the bottom of the V, and then we got a Vibrant. They have these modular intercoolers that you can build, and we just built it to our own specs.
That looks so crazy. So, and you don't actually run out of room in this. There's actually a lot of room, but the packaging is difficult because of the way the hood is shaped and everything.
Exactly. Yep.
Huh. So then, is this original?
So the car was 3D scanned, and then my buddy at Lumisthetic, Adam, he designed a custom wide body for it.
Oh.
So what we wanted to have that like old lightweights were the early 60s cars, and you actually featured a couple of cars that referred to them. Lightweights had a natural wide body in the back. We wanted to essentially accent that. And like,
this is a lot wider then.
there's a lot wider. There's 100 mil on each side.
100 mil on each side.
Yeah.
And then that's in the back. What about the front?
Front's about 60. Yeah,
Okay.
so the front's a lot more subtle. The way that Adam was able to design it into here is beautiful, but it is, so what you have is you have the stock hood,
Yeah.
and then you have the 3D printed plastic, and then we laid carbon over that to give it strength, and then we body work that. So it's pretty cool.
So this is still metal,
That's still metal.
and then this is, what is it?
This is carbon, plastic carbon bodywork, so yeah, filler. So it's all just kind of filled together.
And then, so this body line, it actually comes and meets with the original,
Exactly. Yep. See how
the body.
You can see here that it comes up. Yeah, has that little lip there. Yep.
That is so neat. So then, you're not able to actually open this all the way because it's going to hit the ground.
Yeah, that's why we have that like limiter bar, because otherwise we'd be crushing the front end all day.
Interesting. Okay. So then, what did you have to do with the front suspension and steering?
So the front suspension, so I can't, like you mentioned Charlie, I can't thank Charlie and Ricky Bobby enough, because essentially I wanted to put a different differential in it. When I got the car, these had inboard rear brakes, and some people use the rear differentials, but mine was just, the whole subframe was rusted, it was just disintegrating. And I asked him, hey, what did you guys do for a rear end? He's like, we did an E60 rear end. I was like, wow, okay.
Like BMW.
BMW E60.
Okay.
They used an M5. I was like, I don't need that kind of power. I'd actually rather have the smaller diff, because then I can source a LSD more readily available. So we put a 535 rear subframe differential, everything in it. And we did it a little bit differently than they did. What they did was they made essentially like, let's say like castles inside the chassis, and they mounted it that way. Well, what we did was we built a cage around the subframe and then welded that into our roll bar. A little bit different, but they also have a different packaging because they're convertible and we're a 2+2. So our spatial stuff is a little bit different than theirs. On the front end, again, cues from them, Mustang 2 knuckles. So kind of like the old school tuners usually use that on conversions. So it's a AA arm, which is what this came with actually. And we converted to the Mustang 2 that uses Corvette wheel bearings and Corvette brakes. And silver shocks front and back. It's a Corvette shock, a short shock. But eventually I think we'll switch to full Corvette kinematics in the front.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's funny, I was talking to my fiance, and I have a few too many cars. And she was,
No, you don't say.
Right, yeah. And the E-Type she loves, it's one of her favorites. And we were talking to her, and I was like, what should we keep the E-Type after we do it? Should we sell it? And she's like, why don't you drift it? And I was like, well, that's why I love you. That's why I love you.
That's why I married you.
So,
that's really cool, because there can't just be one drifting E-Type in the world. There needs to be two.
There needs to be two.
And then they're different enough.
They're different enough.
That's the cool thing.
I don't know if we'll ever meet on track, but it'd be amazing. They're really cool dudes.
That would be super cool.
Yeah,
I love shooting with them. Great guys. Tell me about the wheel and tire combo.
Okay, so back to that kind of lightweight inspiration. I talked to Rotiform. I saw the STLs on their site, but they were truck wheel. They're sold as a cast wheel. And I talked to Jason over at Rotiform and Scott, and I was like, hey, can you guys design these as a 3-piece wheel? Because they look kind of like the lightweights from back in the day. They're like, yep, no problem. I gave them the brake calipers that we're going to use. They actually, because all their wheels are custom, they were actually able to design the interface of the wheel based on the brakes that we're going to use, which is phenomenal, right? When you're doing this kind of build and there's so many,
They essentially went backwards, because a lot of times, right, it's like you have to fit the wheel to the brakes that you have on the car.
Yeah, exactly. So
wait, why is it? Is it special brakes that you have on the car?
it's Corvette front brakes.
Oh, okay.
But
Because most of the front is Corvette.
Yeah, it's a Corvette hub. The knuckle is custom. The knuckle is by a company called SSP or SPP. I can't. But anyways, and then the Bridgestone tires, and it just it kind of gives that whole. The Bridgestones came in a really nice size, so that they're not too skinny of a sidewall. Kept that kind of period correct look. Yeah.
It looks so good. In terms of packaging, it's incredible to me how nice the 2J fits in that channel right there.
It does, yeah. So that comes from the inline 6 kind of heritage, right? There's definitely once we get it back home and we go through all the iterations with it, the front structure we will have to kind of revise. We had to take a lot out of it to make it fit, so we'll probably have to reinforce even more to really get it where we want to be.
So, did you have to take all this down to bare metal?
We did, yeah, and you can see it's not the prettiest thing, but we actually reinforced it because that cage is really, really thin from the factory, and once we started kind of modifying it, we just saw how thin that metal was, and so we just reinforced it with.
I mean, back in the 60s, how would they have known if it was strong enough or whatever, What would they do to test it?
Hit a tree? I don't know. Yeah. The funny thing is that these cars, I'm always afraid of older cars because there's some safety involved with that, right? But they say actually the front structures of these are so weak that they act as a crush structure, allowing people to survive.
Right. Huh. Amazing. So then, with this setup, how much do you think you're able to? 750.
Yeah, about 750. So nothing crazy.
Reliable.
Yeah, exactly. It'll do it all day long. So
more than enough to spin the wheels on this thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And it would be a demo car. Obviously, can't compete with it. So
you gotta just love the look of this thing.
I loved it. So there's that shooting brake look that exists in the clown shoes and that kind of stuff. I've always loved that kind of slightly odd shaped car, and I think it fits that very well. I think the 2+2 roof line is a bit of an oddity, but when you make the car this wide, it kind of balances that a little bit. So it's
so cool.
Thank you.
I do have to say though, what's interesting about this is the exhaust. The way you have routed it just goes out the side.
Yep.
Whereas I've seen so many of these builds, especially for road race applications, they just have them shooting to the back.
Yep.
But it doesn't make sense for you to make more power. It has to be just a lot closer, right?
It's a lot closer. It allows us also, this car is funny because it's not that low, but it's actually it doesn't have very much ground clearance. And that comes from just the nature of the wheelbase. The wheels are so far to the edges of the car that it actually has even trouble getting off our rack. So
amazing. Just this scene right here, so cool.
Kind of fun, right?
So awesome.
Yeah. And the way it all came together, it's a lot of work, but great guys at the shop just kind of persevered, and we kept going at it.
Can you open the door on that side?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I open the door on this side?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the interior.
Yep.
Seats,
tillets.
very British.
Yep.
Yeah. They look very solid.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about tillet seats is that they came from karting, right? So, simple, but at the same time built for your body and very, very comfortable, surprisingly. The other problem with the E-Type is I'm a bigger guy, right? Headroom in the 2+2 is abundant. Side-to-side room is not very abundant, and finding a seat that can comfortably fit me, but at the same time fit in this car, was an issue. Being able to, we tried a couple different seats, and being able to close the door with the seat in it was a problem. So
yeah, this also gives you as much room as possible.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah. Again, ZF transmission from the E36 M3, just the 320, and Link ECU, Link Dash, back to what we know and love. ODP pedals, which are, this is my first time working with them, and the products are amazing. It's also British, which is kind of fun. The interior was done by a friend of ours that we just wanted to kind of clean it up, and he made these pads for us. We had to enlarge the tranny tunnel and also drive shaft tunnel. This is an interesting car where the drive shaft's actually in the car. So where there's a piece of the chassis that goes underneath the drive shaft.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of housed in the middle of the car.
That's so weird.
It is, but it's nice because, a lot of cars, they don't have that structural rigidity you want from side to side, and these cars actually have that from the factory.
Interesting.
So
that makes sense, because it's not just a hollow thing in the middle.
It's just not a hollow thing, yeah.
So then, why not just a transmission off of, I don't know, what do the Mark IVs use?
They use a V160. They're really expensive.
This just works a lot better.
This works a lot better. The packaging's nice. Also, the really small transmissions.
Yeah.
They handle the power.
And it's super cool that you're able to use an IRP.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
It kind of fits the look.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, so, and that's actually funny. That's a E46 IRP. So they make a version that is meant to essentially mount a stock E46 body. And it worked really well here, so we just use that.
Huh. Yeah. And then cage. Pretty simple roll bar setup.
Yep. Sean McLean at the track, he bent that roll bar for us, and then our buddy Luke Wright did all the crossbars and back bars, and essentially tied that cage that we built above the rear subframe to the roll bar.
Yeah, it's really clean. I mean, it's just enough business.
Yeah.
But also there's some cleanliness because, like you said, it is a demo car.
Yep.
It also still needs to look nice.
Yeah, and so we do a lot of corporate ride-alongs at Sonoma. So we get like companies that want ride-alongs, and having fun, interesting cars for them to ride in is also it's a good time.
Yeah, what a cool car.
Thanks.
I can't wait to see this thing shred, man.
Yeah.
This thing is gonna be awesome.
Cool.
You always bring the heat.
Thanks, brother.
It's
Appreciate
so
that.
cool.
Yeah.
What a great car.
Thank you.
I love it.
Yeah, it's fun, you know, and like you might know Greg Emerson from ID Agency. He and I come up with these like kind of cool concepts that take that racing heritage and kind of mix it with something fun, and it's really it's been fun.
Oh, you're cheating with him because he's British.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Of course he's gonna love your idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Cool.
this is great. I love it. Good job.
Thanks.
And can't wait to see it shred.
Right on, brother.
Awesome.
Appreciate
cool.
it.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to support us directly, go to LarryChenPrints.com. I print and sign every single one of these. This is the perfect gift, or it's the perfect piece of art for your wall.